Rachel, and welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm very excited this week because we're going to be starting a new series called The Journey to Getting Your Private Pilot's License. I've been working on getting my private pilot's license, or PPL, for about the last 4 to 5 months now, and I really want to provide some clarity around the process, hopefully make it more accessible, go through what I've learned, my lessons learned, as well as what things I would do differently. So again, I hope you enjoy. First, what is a private pilot's license? So your PPL allows a person to fly a non-commercial plane, meaning you can't get paid for flying people or property, but you can fly your friends and family and even fly by yourself and really take advantage of the freedom of the sky. Some other limitations on your PPL or private pilot's license, for example, how high you can fly if there's bad weather, engines, you may need different instrument ratings, as well as your multi-engine rating. Your private pilot's license really is that first foundational step, and then you build up upon it when you continue to get more experience and take more tests, and also do more training on different kind of instruments and really expand your scope of aviation. What does it take to obtain your private pilot's license? And I think this is really important and sometimes can get a little confusing. It's very much like getting your driver's license, only you have to be 17 years old and or older. You do have to have a proficiency for speaking, writing, and understanding English, because that in the United States and the FAA, their Federal Aviation Administration, does do testing in English. You must hold at least a third-class medical certificate, which must be completed by an approved medical professional. This certificate ensures that you're physically fit to fly, so you won't be passing out in the air, especially if you're the pilot in command. You also must complete a minimum number of hours, which is 40 hours before you can do your check ride. And those hours in themselves have their own requirements of what you must do in those hours, so we'll get to that a little later. In addition to completing your hours, there's also ground school, which covers topics such as aerodynamics, navigation, weather, and aircraft systems. You must also pass a written exam, which covers the topics that you went over during flight training as well as in ground school. You must also pass a practical exam, which is better known as a check ride, which includes a flight test and an oral exam, which is administered by a FAA designated examiner. Now, I do want to kind of note that while these are the basic requirements, each person's experience is going to be very different. Like, for example, my own. So your amount of time may exceed 40 hours of flight time that may be required before your instructor is comfortable approving you for your check ride. But again, the purpose of this is to make sure that you're a competent, safe pilot. And so your flight instructor, you should trust completely and know that they're trying to act within your best interest. So a little bit about the breakdown of the 40 hours that you have to complete minimum before you can go for your check ride. Those hours break down into 3 hours of cross-country flight training, 3 hours of night flight training, 3 hours of flight training on controls and maneuvering solos by referencing the instruments in your prop, 3 hours of flight training with an authorized instructor in preparation for your practical tests within the preceding 2 calendar months, as well as 10 hours that you're truly solo, meaning your flight instructor is not in the prop with you. This 10 hours is broken down further into a period of time. I'll include a link or a Word document that gives you a breakdown of the requirements, as well as additional information about what you need to do and how you find these requirements. Also, if you have any questions about this, feel free to put them in the comments and I'd be happy to answer them. And if I don't know the answer, I'll go find them because I have people I can bug because I got time. And how do you choose your approach for completing your private pilot's license? More specifically, the training part. So in my point of view, I think there's two approaches, and both of those I have firsthand experience with. The first approach is going to I would say a large flight school, and the second approach would be going to an individual flight instructor. So when I first started this journey, I did go to a large flight school first, which is ATP. I think it was very convenient. And they also offered a discovery flight, which I definitely recommend anybody who's interested in doing this, take a discovery flight. Determine if you're going to pass out if you get up high. Are you really afraid of heights? Are you afraid of falling? Which one is it? Can you take control of a plane? Will you freak out and seize up? And I think that discovery flight will definitely give you at least a baseline, because you're still going to be scared because you just don't know enough about the plane and how aerodynamics works, and that the plane is not going to fall out the air. Like, that's not how it was built. That's not the mechanics of it. But that first test flight, I would say for ATP, it cost me under $200. It was about an hour and 30 minutes and very easy in terms of accessibility. I know $200 sounds like a lot of money, so I'll think about some other options you can take if you want to do a test flight. But in terms of giving you that access to see if it's something you are interested in, definitely an easy barrier to get past. You sign up online, you go to the website, you put in your name, your information, your email address, and you pick a date and time, and then you show up to the airport. Luckily for me, I live about 30 minutes away from a large international airport. ATP has lots of locations all over the country. So when I was at the airport, it's not the main gates, it's off to the side, like kind of like in the cargo stuff. They didn't really ask me a lot of questions. I don't even think they asked me for a driver's license. I think they're assuming that people just don't show up unless they're interested in it. And this may be just be calling out things that may be a security flaw. Like, I think you should ask people like how sane of mind they are or whatever, but I guess a lot of people aren't going to go do this level, go hijack planes. That sounds cringy. But anyway, that was my other thought when I went to do that. So I did meet with a flight instructor. He kind of laid out the program, gave me some suggestions, told me about his experience. He did take me up on a plane the first time I went out there. He did the takeoff. He let me use the controls, so the yoke when we were in the air. He let me use the foot pedals when we were on the ground, and really kind of just tried to explain how a plane maneuvers on the ground, which is a completely different thought process. Because, if you're in the States, you're driving with your right foot, and when you're flying a plane, both feet are working on your left and your right. So it's just completely different mindset. But again, with ATP, I think they had a very rigorous schedule. They recommended full-time to part-time participation. They really were a program that were pumping or getting people to their commercial license so you could get paid to do this skill. I think it's about 7 months. And I want to say, and I'll put down the exact numbers, the range that they told me for training would be about $75,000 to $90,000. So I'll take a pause right here. So from an accessibility perspective, that seemed completely asinine. I'm not going to lie, like, I can't afford that. That was a whole nother degree for me. But I am saying that if this is something that you want to do as a career journey, there's lots of ways for young people or people who want a second career, who are very interested in going into aviation, to do that with scholarships. I'll provide, again, some links to some scholarships or programs that I've seen that give either money or programs with large commercial airlines that exist now, because aviation definitely has a decrease in accessible workforce, and definitely somewhere that I see a lot of job opportunity. But for me, again, my vision is friends, family, plane, going places. Like, I don't see myself getting paid for this right now. Now that may change because I do love being in the sky. I do, and I did actually apply to a couple of programs, but money was definitely a barrier for me for that. But ATP has lots of partnerships with different companies to help do that for the money part. Now, the second option and the track that I took is to find an individual flight instructor. So, this is someone who has their commercial license, has done a lot of training, has lots of hours, and they also have a license for teaching. So, they usually, when you're first learning to fly the plane, your student sitting on the left side, teacher sits on the right side. Just think about it like when you're driving a car, is someone on the opposite side. Both of you have what would be the equivalent of a steering wheel in a plane, and that person would be your instructor. And the individual instructor usually is either renting planes or own their own planes. And so I did a quick reckless Google search and looked up near me instructors. And I did find a guy who had a flight school at a small regional airport, and it turns out like he was not available. And this is just sometimes you just have to go the extra step. Know that like anything that's you're trying to do this hobby, you're just gonna have to take that one extra step. And he told me that he wasn't available or wasn't taking students on for training. And then I asked him, do you have another recommendation? And that's how he sent me to Steve, who is my flight instructor. And I really couldn't be happier with what I found as a match. And again, very just like haphazardly, really. And even when I reached out to Steve, I called him the wrong name in the email, and he was just so chill about it. So shout out to Steve. I I appreciate your chill spirit. And so with an individual flight instructor, some of the benefits are additional flexibility. They are listening a little bit more. And again, that flexibility gives you room to see where you want to go with this. Do you just want to get your PPL and instrument licensing? Do you want to go on the commercial routes? But also it again gives you flexibility of time. You don't have to go full-time or part-time. Now take a pause here. If you're going to pursue your private pilot's license, I believe you need to be flying at least once a week. I think taking 2 weeks in between is very, very hard to do, to remember the feeling and settling of the plane. Now, if you can do it or if that's all that you have accessible, definitely possible. But for me, what worked best, at least, was to go at least once a week. Again, from a pricing perspective, I am paying for plane cost for the hour for the plane, as well as the instructor cost for him to be there. That pricing structure will change when I solo and no longer need him in the prop with me. But right now, my typical sessions with him run anywhere from an hour and a half to right up to 2 hours. And it ranges from like $270 to $300 a session. So I'll put down the breakdowns just to make it very clear, but to finish through just my private pilots with Steve, my instructor, should have me below $10,000. I think I'm going to end up being a person that's over 40 hours. Like I said in the beginning, everything is going to be up to your at your own pace. Don't try to rush to get done with 40 hours. Feel very competent in what you're doing. But yeah, I think I'm going to be over 40 hours, specifically because I'm taking a relatively long break in between my training. So I'm anticipating having to do a lot of some refreshers. Those are the differences. I definitely think if you want a very rigid and not rigid, but like more structured school, going to a more established flight school is very good. If you want some flexibility, as well as if you can reduce costs, you may have a friend who has their flight instructor license who may be able to just want to split the cost of the plane operating expense. So definitely, I think you should explore both options, but the individual flight instructor was something that worked best for me. So I'll talk about this more when we get to my actual flight training, but where I'm flying out of compared to where we're at a large airport with the flight school. I'm at a very small regional airport. It's untowered. So when planes approach and land and take off, we're just making the announcement to other planes in the area. There's no one giving us approvals to take off or land. So it makes it very quick. So when I'm going around and practicing my landings and takeoff, I literally touch and go. And I can do a takeoff and landing I will probably go through the sequence maybe 30 to 40 times in a session, compared to a large airport. You may circle for 7 minutes. So you may only get to 7 or 10 takeoff and land. It's just timing. I don't have to deal with big jumbo props. Now we will have to do training at those other airports, but really just to get to the mechanics of landing and taking off is much, much simpler. Alrighty. So how this series will go is really just a journey to getting to my PPL, going through my lessons, what items that I've learned, what I wish I knew before, what things I think anybody should look out for. And again, as I get more accessibility, how I can help anybody who wants to enter into this field and get access, the communities that exist in here, and how you can get involved. What I will be trying to do more of is recording while I am in the plane. I'm still trying to figure that out. It's just a whole, like right now I have like one GoPro and my own like computers and iPads and stuff. So I'm jury-rigging it. So I'm trying to figure out what's the best angle. So definitely would appreciate your feedback. Futuring, which I do think, and this is also me talking to my future self, one of my plans is to buy a plane. And I think it seems impossible right now. I have no idea how to do it. They say it's kind of like buying a car or buying a house. I been through both those processes, and I feel like I still wouldn't be able to tell anybody how to do it. It was very vague. I felt like some people were just moving me along, and I felt like a child. So I want to at least document it if that's something you're interested in doing yourself. I do see people who own planes, but I feel like they're like in a different, I don't know, it just seems like crazy to own a plane. That seems just blows my mind. So that will be part of this series, as well as, just cool stuff that's going on in aviation and the changes. Hopefully we get to see some tours of some aero parks, as well as some I'll show you some conventions that we've been going through. But yeah, that's what this series will be about. I'm excited as a Black woman in aviation now. I've also been reading about Betsy Coleman. I've been very, very inspired, to be in spaces that challenge me. And I recommend anybody who's looking for something to challenge their mind, that could be a new hobby, to try aviation. So yeah, thank you. And I look forward to taking you on this journey. Again, any comments, any questions, anything you want to see about aviation, please comment below, and I'll be happy to go figure it out or create a video about it. All right, have a good one. Bye. Oh yeah, and I hope the wind is always at your back. I don't know, there's a quote someone wrote in a book, and I'll take a picture of it. I've ruined it. I'm sorry. All right, bye.
Yay, I found it. May the wind be at your back as you fly high. Yay, I found it. May the wind be at your back as you